Oh hey, welcome back. You still want to know what's in that box? Let's open it up together. You're really weird that you waited a week just to see what was in the box. Ew. What's wrong with you? It's an exploded thing of miso paste. You're weird. This is one of the two boxes that we actually saw last video. What's in it is what's going to be the new background for my studio. These are T5 LED tubes. They're supposed to be garage lights. These are what you would set up to be able to see in your car and stuff like that. Now the problem with these lights is that they're only white. That's until today. Before we get into it, I need to address something. Recently on YouTube, I've been seeing people try to make DIY Quasar Science LED tubes, which, understandably, the real product is about $10,000. I've seen the cheapest of the cheap, from wood glue, LED strips, and parchment paper stapled around it, to downright complicated, from PVC pipes glued together, painted inside, and everything. They all worked, and to be honest, they were all pretty great. The problem is, either you can't move them, or they require a lot of assembly. And to be honest, I think we can do better. So here's the idea that I came up with to replace the $10,000 price tag of the Quasar Science LED tubes. Now, when I said cheap, I really do mean cheap. For these, we're talking about $30 per RGB LED beam. An LED beam, which is removable, doesn't require a lot of assembly, and is about $9,700 cheaper than the real thing. So for 10 beams, which is what I have here, it's gonna cost you about $300. And yes, they are gonna require some assembly, but once they're set up, you won't really have to worry about it. If you wanna move it, just grab it, take it off the wall, and put it somewhere else. So first things first, what you're going to need is a T5 LED tube. Links to the ones I purchased in the description below. I would recommend if you can find T8 tubes, that might go a little better, as they are a little bigger and do look a little more like the Quasar Science. I didn't know the T5s were so small, that's why I have these ones. Get the T8s if you can get the T8s, although these will still work. Next, you're going to need some LED strips. Go buy yourself some LED strips on Amazon, and for every tube you have, you're gonna need to buy one pack of LED strips. So try to get the smallest you can, because you're gonna need one power supply and one controller per beam. The LED strips are also where you can start to get fancy on what functions you want in your beam. So let's say you want app support so that you can control them with your phone. You can get that with certain LED strips. Let's say you want every single section of the LED strip to be a different color, for example. You want it to cycle through a rainbow wave or something. Well, you can do that with RGB IC, which means individually controlled LEDs. You can also get battery-powered LEDs so that they resemble also the real thing. I don't really want to deal with batteries, and also I'm okay with a stagnant color, which is why I got these RGB LEDs. You also want to make sure these are 50-50 LEDs, so you won't have the Christmas tree light effect, where if you have blue, only certain sections of the beam will be on, red will be staggered, and green will be staggered again. That really won't look good. You really want 50-50 LED strips. Now that you have all the material you need, here's all the tools you're going to need. First things first, a multimeter when working with electronics will often help you a lot. Next, scissors to cut up your wires, a soldering iron, a screwdriver to pry these open, tweezers, an X-Acto knife, flux, very, very, very important. Have flux on hand when you're soldering, as this will be the reason why your solders either stick or don't. Next up, a tool that will make sure that when you have too much solder, you can remove it with this. You're gonna want a wire stripper, ideally one of these, which automatically does it for you. It just makes the job a whole lot easier. And last thing, some solder. Let's get started. Now that we have all that, take your beam out of the package. You're gonna have a little packet of your wall mounts, so keep that on hand. You're also gonna get a wire, which you're supposed to use to plug into the wall. You're gonna have the beam itself. Once you have the beam in your hands, the plates on both sides, which encase the electronics, can easily be pushed out by pushing down on this tab with a screwdriver and slowly pushing it out. Let's do that right now. Grab your screwdriver. Ideally use the corner of it, or a pointy end. It might make things a little easier. And as you do that a couple times, you're going to have free space between the two. You're going to wiggle it out with your fingers. You'll see it'll be attached to two wires. Don't worry about the wires for now. You've never plugged this in, so it's not going to shock you or anything. We also got to take care of the peel porn before we get too far, so let's do that. Okay, next, other side, same deal. And on the other side, whichever side you started on doesn't really matter. One side you're gonna have 2 cables, and the other side you're gonna have 4 cables. Grab your scissors and just same thing on the other side. And now, on the side where you had the red cable, yank on the red cable and you'll see the power supply actually comes out. You can also cut the 2 cables which go to the LED strip, which you can, if you peek in, you can see, so cut those off. And bring the very sketchy power supply out. Take your second wire out. These wires are actually good and we're gonna use them when we solder our LEDs inside of here. And how you're gonna get the LED strip out of here, the existing one, which is only white, is by holding the top milky plastic on top and the aluminum channel at the bottom. Then push. Once that's taken off, you're gonna see the inside of these T5 LEDs. You're going to now scratch off the hot glue, which is on both ends, and you're gonna attempt to push this LED strip out of the fixture. Okay, now that you've got your fixture gutted, we're going to add the RGB LEDs to it. So open the box. Now grab your strips, and what you're gonna do is you're gonna line them up in your channel. How you're gonna line them up is very specific though. You're going to line them up as a V. So you'll be adding 2 strips to this beam. By only adding 1, you're gonna have a problem where there's gonna be bubbling. AKA, you're gonna have places which is stronger than others, and it's gonna look really ugly. You do not want that. Keep it on the edge of your fixture enough so that you can fit the other one on the other side. The way you're also gonna put your 2 strips is you're gonna stagger them. So every LED will be in a zigzag formation, stopping the bubbling effect, which I just spoke about. You can now take your first strip and glue it to the edge of your light. Now that you've got your first strip in, pull another length of your LED strips and run another one all the way along. And with this one, you're gonna find that to stagger your lights and to get to both extremities of the fixture, for me anyway, it might not be the same thing for you, but where I need to cut the strips, it ends up being about an inch longer than the actual fixture. That doesn't matter. We will make sure that everything fits in the fixture properly. So cut your strip up and fit the other one in. Great, so if you followed things properly, your LED beam is actually about 50% done. All that's left is just to solder the connections together and put it all back together. Word of caution, when you're soldering, make sure you have extremely good ventilation nearby. Now that that's out of the way, here's how you're gonna solder everything together. If you have weatherproofing, like I have, you're gonna wanna grab your X-Acto knife and cut it off. Now that you have your weather stripping off, let's go solder. Now that we've tested that the strip functions properly, we have one last step which we need to do to make sure that it all fits and closes. As now, we have this tab here, which if we put the plastic right on top, it's not gonna fit. So let's make it fit. You're gonna take the end where your connector of your LED strip is, and with a knife or with your X-Acto or whatever it is, for me a serrated knife actually worked really well. You're going to cut a little notch, and can't really tell you how much to do. You're just gonna have to test it out, trial and error. Go very slow. As soon as you got your first one, it'll be easy for all the rest. Okay, that looks good enough. Now if we plug it in, it should still work. Let's try that now. And there you go. You got your LED beam completed. All that's left now is to put it up on the wall. So congratulations. If you plugged it in and all the colors still work, you've just made a $1,000 LED bar for 30 bucks. I hope you've enjoyed. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments below. I've also included everything that I've purchased in the description as well, so you can get an exact copy of what I have here if you decide to make your own. I hope you have a great day. If you enjoyed the video, give it a like, subscribe for more content like this, and I'll catch you next time. Peace.